All right, well, welcome in. This is the XBE Thrive series that we do for the Diversity Consortium. Today's micro is going to be on sales support. And so you'll get a chance to be able to find out a little bit about strategic selling and the way that we go about helping XBEs to be able to really proliferate their business. First thing is, my name is Raymond Tate. I am the Director of Business Development for the Diversity Consortium. And realistically, I come from 25 years of experience working with Fortune 500 companies, building sales strategy, and really trying to find different ways to be able to build sales teams, working with marketing and those types of things. So hopefully my experience will help today, and let's look forward to a really solid session as we go forward. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping. What we're going to be doing, and I'll go over the agenda in a minute, but wanted to give you an opportunity to be able to ask questions. And so if you go to in your Teams to the right, you'll see the chat section. If you enter your questions into the chat, I'll be able to answer those in the question and answer session that we'll have probably about half an hour from now. But the idea is that, ask the questions about the sales support system, and I'll answer as the best I can to be able to fill those in. Thing about this is that this is computer audio only, and you will not be able to have any dial-in numbers. You also won't be talking in the room, but please make sure that you articulate your questions in the chat function, and we'll look forward to getting those moving. So really excited about getting started with this one. Next, we have our service partners that have really helped and sponsored through this particular webinar. So we have the Plan Consulting Group. Plan Consulting Group has done a wonderful job in terms of being able to look at efficiencies in different types of businesses and to be able to show them savings through cost optimization. When you start talking about our next one, it's the Business Partner Blueprint, and this is with Randall Dobbins. And when you start talking about training curriculums, those types of things, he does an excellent job in terms of working with XBEs or disadvantaged businesses, as we like to call them, XBEs in this case. He does a wonderful job in terms of building out programs, and part of the sales curriculum that would go as a part of this system will absolutely be a part of his business. We start talking about the CWE. We'll talk a little bit about that as I start to get into this particular program, but you start talking about virtual offices. You start talking about opportunities for CRM systems. Where is a good place for people to be able to meet internally to be able to go through that repository of information? That's what the CWE does. And we talk about the SBBC, certifying body that's there, and then of course the Plan Consulting Group research. So those are our service partners, and they're a part of our process, and you'll get to know them better should we choose to be able to move farther down the road. All right, so let's talk about what this particular micro is going to be about. And of course, it's sales support. That's what you signed up for. That's what my expertise is. So hopefully I'll be able to provide a little bit of knowledge and answer some questions that you have along the way. The topic today is driving new opportunities and what sales growth is about. So we'll get into that a little bit deeper as we keep on going through. So our agenda for today, what are we going to cover? We're going to talk a little bit about the Diversity Consortium so you get a feel for where we're coming from and really what services we offer for XBEs in this particular case. The other thing that we'll be looking at is diversity service lines for you. And so what areas very specifically can we help you within your business to be able to proliferate? You may say, you know what, my business is tight, my business is good right now, but it always proves well to be able to make sure that you have an open mind and taking a look at how you can improve your business. We'll talk a little bit about sales support strategy. What's the process behind it? What are the major key areas to be able to go through and say, hey, you know what? This is where I'm going to be able to proliferate my business. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a little bit about client relationship management, and I alluded to it a little bit in the beginning with the CWE, but I'll flesh it out a little bit more as we start to go on through the process. And then at the end, I'll be kind of putting it all together. So what are the different components? We talked about that. And really, what are the ways to be able to pull them together so that we can identify what areas of your business are going to be solid ones and what we need to be able to work on some of the other ones so that when you talk about having a offering to a corporate client, you're top of the notch. You know what's going on there, and we'll talk about that. I alluded to it a little bit earlier that we're going to have a question and answer period, and that's going to be for a period of time. We'll take the questions in the room, and what I would ask for you in those sections is to kind of keep it on topic and make sure we're in the right flow. No rabbit holes. We're not allowed to go through that, so let's make sure we're all on the same page and go with the topic that's on hand. And then the last thing that I'm going to talk about is the upcoming resources that are available to you. That'll go into Thrive webinars. We'll talk a little bit about some of the micros, and it'll make a little bit more sense when I go through the service lines. But hopefully everybody's on the same page, and we'll go ahead and we'll get started. So let's ask one question to the room. So let's talk about it. What excuse me, disadvantaged business, or XBEs as we like to call them, category is your company? If you can put them into the chat on the right, let's see kind of who we're working with right now. Okay, I see Black-owned business. Okay. All right, LGBTQ, very good, very good. And we have woman-owned business. Okay, very good, very good. All right, so that gives us a little bit of a feel for what we're talking about. We have everything all over the gamut, which is a good thing. So we'll talk a little bit about, really kind of the lines and, how we can help you to be able to work with your business. We take all of them. All right, so let's talk about a little bit about the mission of the Diversity Consortium so you can understand a little bit about us. So when we start talking about the DC, it's really what we want to be able to do is to make a measurable difference in the supplier diversity landscape while providing a return on investment for both the XBEs and corporations. What this ultimately provides is an opportunity for us to be able to work in the communities and really proliferate the businesses and help to be able to develop the entities around those. That's really what you want to be looking for in terms of the Diversity Consortium, and that's really what our purpose is. A little bit about us as well is to kind of give you a little bit of what our people are about. So you got average 10 years of business in terms of the people that we engage for our company. When you start talking about 500 service lines, this will make a little bit more sense as I start to get a little bit further into it. But the idea is that we want to be able to have different areas to be able to offer to the XBE community and, of course, the corporate community as well when they're evaluating and looking at their supplier diversity in those cases. We work with thousands of XBEs. That's primarily what my focus is and my team is to be able to identify XBEs and say, hey, let's take a look at your business and see how we can take it to another level. When we start talking about staff members, when we go through these engagements with the XBEs and also with the corporate, it takes a lot of people to be able to get this stuff done. Some people part-time, some people are full-time, but the point of the matter is that we're building businesses, and that takes a lot of people, a lot of good people to be able to get that moving, and that's what we do. We start talking about cash reserves. This is when we get into one of the other functions, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about it later on when we start talking about financing opportunities when you want your business to grow. We start talking about, $1 billion in cash reserves. That's one of the big things to be able to help jumpstart businesses, to be able to help businesses to be able to go to another level. Big part of what we do. We start talking about 25 companies. These are the companies that we work with, that we pair up our XBEs and really be able to bridge that gap and to make sure that they're kind of meeting in the middle and finding the best way to be able to do business and work on their diversity spend in those cases. And then we start talking about our people, 260 plus years of diversity experience. I would say it's probably more, but we'll do it for the purposes of the slide. But the idea is that we have a number of people that have been in this business for a long period of time. And so bringing the Diversity Consortium together has been an excellent opportunity for us to be able to really get out there and make sure that the word gets out, number one. Number two, that we're working with diverse companies to be able to make sure that they're in a great spot to be able to work with our corporate partners and really be able to proliferate their business. So really excited about that. Moving on, this is what I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, and we talk about the diverse service lines that we work with. If you look on the left, these are what we call upmarket offerings, and this goes more towards our corporate partners as we start to get into it, but it'll make sense as I tie it back into the XBs, hopefully. So the idea is that when we engage our corporate clients, new ones, or we're talking about with our existing ones, there's certain areas that they may have blind spots to be able to work with. So when you start talking about what's their strategy in working with XBEs, when you start talking about research, when you start talking about technology, are they using the right things to be able to find them, vet them, those types of things? That's what we work with on the corporate side to be able to get there. What's the management of their diversity spend? It's one of the big things that we help them to be able to get a clear understand what's the pulse of the market out there, and which XBEs via Vetted Bench can help them to be able to make it to where it's not just a business just because they have a certain level of certification. Viable businesses that they want to be able to work with and be profitable with on that case. And then we start talking about marketing and being able to work out with them. That's what we do from our corporate side. When you start to look at on the right and you start to look at the down market offerings, this is more specifically geared towards the XBEs and very specifically what you all came to this particular webinar for. So you see that I circled the business development part. Yes, I'm a little bit, I'm that guy that wants to make sure that mine stands out. But the point of the matter is that, we do this very specifically, and you look at the areas that we work with XBEs to be able to, as I said before, proliferate their business. So when you start talking about coaching and mentoring, the certification process, getting the businesses, if you don't know how to be able to get there, that's what we help you to be able to do, to be able to say we're a viable business and what's the best avenue to be able to get to the corporate clients that are out there, to be able to gain more business. And isn't that what sales is about? We start talking about training. We have different things. I talked a little bit about one of our partners with Dobbins International that does a training curriculum. You'll be able to go through there to be able to see, okay, what are those areas that we have issues with, or maybe they're weaknesses that we haven't perceived at this point. And you can get trained up and you can train your team to be able to make sure that those areas go from being a weakness to actual strengths. And so we work with that to be able to do that. Technology platforms, I'll talk about this a little bit more as we start to get down the road, but these are the virtual offices. I look at it as almost as a kind of a repository of information for everybody within your organization to be able to know real time what's going on in your organization, whether that be the sales efforts, transferring that over to the operations. We'll get into a little bit more of that later on. We start talking about business development. That's more of the sales function. We've talked about this before. Working capital, ding, 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 ding. That's a big one. And yes, there is a micro that's on this one. So I'll show it to you at the end so that you can attend that one that's going to be coming up this week. But the point of the matter is everybody needs money, right? Or maybe not everybody needs money, but everybody wants money. There's different ways to be able to make your business grow. And if you need that jump start, that's a great way to be able to do it. Marketing, how do you be able to get your name out there, brand awareness, those types of things. And again, I'll dive into these a little bit deeper as we start to go through, but I just want to give you a little bit of a feel. The XBE health plan, when you start talking about affordable health care, for your specific, businesses, this is a great way to be able to get there. And that is a webinar that's going to be coming up, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that later on. We start talking about, performance management, benchmarking. You got to know where you are, where you've been, and where you want to get to. That's what benchmarking helps you do. This is a great way for you to be able to go through that. Now, the one thing that I'll ask you as you start to get into this, you see these offerings for you, and I'm sure probably you're looking around and say, okay, you know what? Maybe I can use a little help with this particular area. Exactly right. Let's talk about it afterwards, but you'll see where we're going to. These are the offerings that we have, and we have subject matter experts that can truly help you to be able to proliferate your business, as I said before. All right, so let me ask a question to the group. Are you satisfied with your sales performance? And if you can put it into the chat to your right, we'll go ahead and we'll take a quick look at that and see what we have there. Really what you want to be able to, you want to be honest with yourself. You really want to be honest with yourself. Ask yourself, am I absolutely crushing it? Am I kind of saying, okay, I've done a little bit, but maybe we're doing a grassroots type thing and, we're getting incremental growth. Where do you want to be? Let me take a look in the room here. Okay. I see one. I don't know if I should say this on camera, but I see one that says piss poor over here. Okay, well, we'll go with that. I see, okay, I'm doing well. Good, good, good. That's always a good sign. Okay, I can see, okay, I can definitely use some help. Well, good, good. I mean, these are all good questions to be able to ask for good, feedback to be able to give with us. And this is the thing that we want to be able to do. I mean, you've got to be able to take an honest assessment of where you are. And hopefully we can help you to be able to do that as we go forward. All right, so let's get into sales support strategy. And this is a big piece of, everybody believes that they can sell, and most people can sell base things, but you got to have a strategy behind it. And let's talk a little bit about some of the components that go into a sales strategy. So we talked a little bit about this before, but the CRM and sales, this is an area where, many people are lacking, and they go through so much, and it's so difficult to be efficient when you don't have a system that helps track what you're doing. So when you start talking about CRM sales strategy, and I'll get a little bit deeper than that into a minute, something that's essential, and really it should be in any size business if you have a sales function, which you do going forward. Social media, what's your branding? How are you getting your name out there? People look at it, they go up on websites, they go up on, your Facebook pages, those types of things. If you haven't tapped that right now, you're missing out on business opportunity in terms of what's going on. We help you to be able to put together those types of programs, and that's a big key component to it. What are the forms that you're using internally? Do you have certain things like, agenda, meeting minutes, those types of things to be able to structure your business and be able to make sure that you're getting everything out of your associates that you work with? That's a big deal. And it sounds small, but it's a big piece of what's going on. moving down to analytics. So analytics is a huge one. You've got to be able to know what your level of sales engagement is. That can come into a number of things, and CRM systems help you with that. But the idea is that you need to be able to see, are you sending out things that are effective, right? In terms of the emails, the campaigns, as you see to your right, those are the things that analytics tells you. Is my messaging coming across well to people? Do people understand it? Okay, and what's their level of engagement? That's a huge part in terms of looking at what your sales strategy is. Also going down, ads. Look, ads can be extremely effective, but they can also be extremely expensive as you start to go through it. The idea is that if you're smart about where you make your money and you spread out what you're doing in terms of your branding and getting there, that's part of the strategy. We have experts that can help you to be able to get to that piece. And then the last thing is you start to get into lead scoring. And realistically, when you start to bundle into CRM systems and those types of things, you should be able to look at what your clients, your prospective clients, are looking at. If you're sending out an ad, if you're sending out an email, did they open up it? Are there certain clicks that they wanted to be able to go to your content? That gives you information, and that information is valuable. So when you start talking about lead scoring and seeing what buyer activity is going along with that, it's an important part of what you do and what we can help you do as you start to go forward. So let's talk a little bit about really what our offerings are to you to be able to help out. And going through those strategies, let's talk about those things that we're able to help you with to be able to get you really to the next level. So when you start talking about brand and logo development, we talked about this. This could be social media. This could be email. This could be, what you're doing on your website. A lot of this goes into it. Here's the thing. If people can't understand what your logo is, or if your messaging doesn't say what you do, it's ineffective. And so the idea is that we need to be able to evaluate that. And it could be something that you've been doing for years, but you're not getting your full utilization out of that. We help you with that in terms of your branding and logo. When you start talking about your digital development and management, we need to be able to look at and say, okay, what are the things that you're doing from a digital standpoint? Because look, Excel spreadsheets are great, but they don't always get you where you want to be able to go. So we need to be able to make sure that you have a place, i.e. a VO, those types of things, to be able to show information, to be able to make sure it's there and it's effective for you so that you can use it throughout your organization. Proposal support. This is a huge one that people overlook very often, and I'll tell you why. When you start looking at a proposal, it's the first thing that most people are seeing as a part of your organization beyond just your regular material that you send out that says, here's part of what we are. A proposal is something that needs to be strong, it needs to be effective, it needs to be concise, and it needs to be something that people say, you know what, they're different than everybody else. And we can help you with that in terms of make sure that the messaging is effective in the way that you work into it. Also, sales support. So we've talked a little bit about that. I'm not going to dive too deep into it because we've already talked about it. But the idea is that you want to be able to make sure that your teams have support. What is it? Back office, those types of things. And you saw the strategy that we talked about it before. Marketing support. Another thing that's a big deal when you start getting into it. What's your branding? And you see something that's consistent in what I'm talking about, and that's the branding of what you're doing with your business. What is it out there? What is your mechanism to be able to get to your prospective clients? That's what marketing does for you. Market research, big part too. If you don't know who your client base is, if you don't know how to be able to get to them, what are you really doing? The answer to the question is that you're spinning your wheels. And that's one of the things we want to be able to help you with from that standpoint. All right, another question for the group. Do you have a CRM system? And for those, and it's okay, you don't have to be shy. For those of you all that don't know what a CRM system is, it's a client relationship management system. This is where we talk about putting in your leads, opportunities, those types of things. So if you can put that in the room, let's see if you have one and really kind of what we're looking at. Okay. My favorite from back in the day, Salesforce. Okay. Okay. Now there's one in here. I shouldn't even say it, but Lotus Notes. That's if you're working with that, I can't help you. No, I'm just joking, of course. But the point of the matter is that when you start to go into these areas, these are types of things that we do for CRM systems and ways that we'll be able to help you. All right, so let's talk a little about what our offering is to you, and that's the collaborative work environment. I talked a little bit about this before, and we were talking about virtual office systems. We started talking about how are you managing your prospective clients, what's your engagement, those types of things. That's what the collaborative work environment does for you. The idea is that you're going to be able to go through, put in your clients to be able to see, okay, where does it start from the prospect mode when you're first starting to talk to them? How are you advancing it through the system to be able to go through that and really to be able to have, that's That's one side. The other side is to be able to have, as I said before, kind of a repository of information. So think about presentations, proposals, documents, those types of things. That's really what the collaborative work environment does for you beyond just being, a place to be able to put opportunities. It really gives your people an opportunity to be able to look at what's our sales engagement, where's the information we're going to get out to our clients, and what's the next steps to be able to bring it to the next level. That's what the collaborative work environment does, and that's part of the offerings that we offer to you as we start to go through. It started in 2006. It was SharePoint before SharePoint was popular, and it's probably the best way to be able to put it, and we've enhanced that throughout the course of the years. We have 3 million plus in revenue for 2021, and then we have 75 plus Fortune 1000 clients. So it's proven out. We use it very specifically ourselves. It's an effective system, and like I said, we'd love to be able to talk to you more about it as we start to go through. Okay, so putting all this together, one of the things that you want to be able to do, and I know I've given you a lot of information in a short period of time, but when you start to look at, the center is really kind of a good sales support type system that works together. I try to give a good visual for it, but there it is. When you start to look at the inner ring and you start to look at, let's start at the things that we talked about that are very specific to success in terms of a sales support program. Marketing automation, you've got to be able to get campaigns, those types of things out there so that you can get your name out there and you can reach your clients. Emails, pretty much, I would love to say that it goes without saying, but you have to say it because it's important. It's what people see on a regular basis. It's when you can't get to them, and that's the only way to be able to talk to them. You need to make sure that you have effective messaging in the way that goes through. CRM, we've talked kind of ad nauseum to that, but it's extremely important. If you don't have it now, you need to be able to get it, and we have ways to be able to help you with that. Sales engagement, what is it from the beginning? It takes 27 touch points to be able to get client engagement when you start going through and they're saying, okay, you know what? I see you. I recognize you. So you've got to be able to have good branding and reach out points to be able to get to that sales engagement, to get them out of prospect mode, which is where most companies have a huge amount of opportunities, but it's really not an opportunity until it's advanced. So let's talk about the sales engagement in terms of being able to get there. Next, we go on to social media. It's important, it's a pain, but you got to do it. You got to get your name out there because people see this stuff on a regular basis in their personal life. If you think about business 10 years ago, you weren't getting into people's personal life, but now you have an avenue to be able to do that. And if you have a strong brand and if you have strong messaging, you'll be able to get to that. The next one is going into ads. We'll talk a little bit about that, but the idea is that you need to be able to make sure if you're going to go that route, that what you're doing is effective, that you make sure that it's not overly expensive and you don't break the bank. But the idea is you got to get the best bang for your buck as you start to go through there. Now, moving out to the outer ring, this is really what we start talking about and saying, okay, what do we need to be able to do? And let's start at attract. You need to be able to track customers. How do you be able to do that? We'll show you as you go through the process. You need to be able to capture them. That goes into the system. We talk about CRM and having that opportunity to be able to put them somewhere so that you can say, what are the next steps in the sales process? Extremely important. When you start talking about engaging them, okay, what way are we going to engage clients? We talked about that. Could be emails, could be campaigns, could be social media. You need to be able to have a sound strategy around that. Moving around, talk about how do we convert them. When I say convert, I mean converting them from prospects to where it's like they're not making you any money, to moving them down the road in terms of opportunity phase. When are they going to be able to engage? Okay, when are they going to be able to do what? Sell to us. We're going to be selling to them, and then we're going to be able to work to it. That's when the money starts to come in, revenue, and I think we all like that. And then expand. There's a couple ways to be able to go off of this one. And really this gets into, okay, are we expanding within a certain organization? Are we getting more, a supply chain opportunity that's in there? Or if it's expanding our business into something else, we help you with that. So working all of these in the same, rowing in the same boat and going in the same area are going to be the effective pieces of a strong sales support plan. And we help you to be able to work with that. All right, we are now at the question and answer phase. So if you can take your brain and say, hey, you know what, I've got great questions, and enter them into the chat box. Love to be able to answer these questions as you start to go along. See what we have.
We've had a few questions, Kevin.
All right, good. Let's start with the first one.
Yep. First one is, how do you source for salespeople?
You know what? That's the $1 million question, but here's probably the best way to be able to answer it is that you've got to, number one, make sure that you're focusing in the right areas to be able to get quality salespeople. Now that sounds nebulous, but I'll flesh it out a little bit more. you need to be able to make sure you're going to the right place. The things that you could go onto Monster, you can go onto Indeed, those types of things. Are they sources? Absolutely. But the thing about it is that there's nothing better than grassroots being able to use your inner network to be able to find salespeople, because people will, look, everybody's resumes are a little bit different, and people, have a tendency to cheat. But what's the best source to be able to find out if somebody's legit? And that's using your internal network. So LinkedIn is a great strategy. We show you how to be able to get those touch points. You'd be able to have a really, really good job description, and making sure that those qualities that you're looking for match with that person's resume. That's a big part of it there. The other piece is to be able to, make sure that you're reaching out in all different areas. You never know where they're going to be able to come from social areas, from, your church, those types of things. You just never know where they're going to come from. But the thing about it is, it's okay to ask people the question, do you know any good salespeople, or do you know people that are out there? Going out to your networks is a great way to be able to get there. It's been more difficult with the pandemic to be able to get people, because some people just are saying, I'm dropping out of the force, or I want to do something different. The idea is that you got to work harder to be able to get those stronger people. But the thing about it is, if you take your time and you set it up right, and we can show you how to do that, you'll find the right people. What's the next question?
We don't really have a sales team. I've always grown my business through my sources. How do we know if we need to expand?
It's a great question. One of the things that we do as a part of our process is we kind of put you through what we do is we kind of go through a survey process. And really what the survey process does is it evaluates your business. And the thing about it is that we go into this, we want everybody to be honest in terms of what we're going through. The idea is, if you're honest, then you'll be able to see, as I talked about a little bit earlier, those areas to where they may not necessarily be strengths in your business. And so when we start talking about those different service lines, to be able to find those areas where we make the recommendation to you to say, hey, you may want to go down this route, and you want to talk to one of our subject matter experts that absolutely lives in this particular area, in this field, this is how they're going to be able to help you. What that survey process does is it says, okay, here are those areas. And we have that honest conversation and say, okay, what are going to be the next steps? And then we have that level of conversation. So, it's great to be able to grow your business on a kind of a organic level, but that really kind of goes incremental. Let's make sure that you're as strong as possible, so that when you're going out there, you're putting your best foot forward, and you're going to be able to get the sales revenue that you want.
Yeah, next question. Is this process expensive? We are a small business and don't have a lot of money to spend as we grow.
Expensive is such a fun term to be able to look at it, because the idea is that if you're investing in yourself and you're investing in what the future of your business is it expensive? Well, I guess it can be, but I would look at it a different way. I would say that if I'm investing in myself and I'm investing in my business, this is for long-term growth, and it's a long-term play. So the idea is that, when you look at this, we don't do things necessarily a la carte to say, okay, you know what, we're just going to identify one thing. We want to make sure that you're looking at your business from a long-term sense. What are the tools that you're going to need going forward? If I were to just sit there and say to you, okay, you know what, we're going to do a CRM where you could just track, what your monthly sales are in that particular situation, did that really help your business? Could we offer that to you? Sure. But the idea is that it would just be something incremental to maybe get you month to month. What we want you to be able to do is to be able to be strong, to be able to be perceived by corporate partners, corporate opportunities as a viable business. And when I say viable, that's not a smack in the face. That's actually good in terms of looking at it. They don't see you as an XBE or a minority-owned business or a disadvantaged business. What they see you as a strong business entity. That's an investment in yourself. And you got to ask yourself, is that expensive? Probably not, if you look at it from the long term, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Ray. We got time for one more question. I think we possibly need help in more areas than just sales support. What are the next steps in the process?
That's a good question. So one of the things that you saw from the beginning, and I talked a little bit about this, was, the survey process is really the next step. Kind of sitting down with us and saying, okay, you know what, let's take an honest look at our business. And what that next step is to go through the survey. It doesn't take a lot of time. There's not a charge for that particular survey in terms of going through. But we need to assess your business to be able to see where's the best case of us being able to say, okay, you're absolutely crushing it on this side of the business. Why don't you take a look at this? Or if it's one of those things, excuse me, where you say, We need funding to be able to take our business to the next level. Okay, what does that mean? You need to be able to talk to our subject matter experts to be able to flesh out what that opportunity is and to be able to say, okay, that's what the next step of my business and being able to proliferate it and get it up to the next level. That's what we work on. So, part of the process and going through every, detail is really not going to be appropriate for this call. But what is appropriate for this call is to be able to say, we'd love to be able to have that conversation. Take the time and invest in you to be able to say, reach out to me, reach out to our team, and to be able to say, what are those next steps? How do I get there? And how do I make my business that much more important? So love to be able to do that with you. All right, I think that's what we said was the last part of the question and answer. Great questions. I really enjoyed it in terms of going through, and be more than happy to be able to answer ones as we start to get a little bit further down the road. All right, let me take a little bit of time to be able to go through, as I said, the last part of our agenda, which is the different resources that we're going to have available to you. So when you start to look at it, there's kind of two different things that we do in terms of these webinars that we put on, and these are absolutely free 99, so there's no charge for them. But the idea is that we want to be able to get the word out and be able to help as many people as possible. So when you start talking about the first part, the XBE Thrive series, which is our kind of overarching part, that's going to be coming up, and the next one is going to be next Monday, as a matter of fact, the 30th at 1 o'clock. And we start talking about the power of certification. Those are the type of things where you say, okay, what does it mean to be a certified XBE? We'll talk a lot about that. It's going to be a great session. I think it'd be great for you to be able to sit in, get a clear understanding, and really, I think it's going to kind of bring some more questions out of you, and we'd love to be able to answer that. And then the one after that in October is the 10 biggest challenges for XBEs, and that gets into October 28th at 1 o'clock p.m. And you can see the other ones that we have in November, December. And again, these are monthly ones that we have going through. Then last, we have the micro topic sessions, which is like this one. So the one that we have these peppered throughout the week, especially this week, and we do them really every third week of the month. And so what you look at, these are the different topics, and these are our subject matter experts that are going to be conducting these. So technology, Chris Bell's on there, marketing, Danya. I won't go through all of them except for the most important one, which is sales support, Ray Tate, which you're on right now. But the idea is that you can go through all these, and they're all up on our website. And you can see our website at the bottom, thediversityconsortium.com. Go up on there and you go into the events section. You'll be able to see the exact times on these in terms of what's going on. And also, if you miss some of these and you need to be able to get them afterwards, please feel free to reach out to me. We can get a copy of it sent over to you to be able to review at that point. All right, so it's been a fun session. I always love doing these things. Hopefully I provided some value to you. Again, my name is Raymond Tate, Director of Business Development for the Diversity Consortium. My contact information is at the bottom, as you can see. My telephone number, have it on me all the time. I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. If you need to contact me by email, please feel free to do that as well. We appreciate your time. We absolutely know and appreciate how valuable your time is. Thanks for spending it with us, and we had a great session here. We appreciate your time. Have a good one.